This is cleaning and maintenance for a PS3 Model CECHH01. Start to finish, we're going to talk you through taking it apart and cleaning it out. Alright, let's take a look at this box. Look at the dust on this booger. Wow. Okay. See it inside there? Alright. Look at that. Don't look like he's been playing online at all with that amount of dust up in there. Yep. He hasn't plugged up the internet to that in a long time. Don't look like he uses the HDMI port. And you know what, I don't use the PS3 much, so I have no clue as to what that little booger is right there. Oh, it's optical. And then we got your AV port. That's pretty dirty too, so you know what, it could be a toss-up. This thing may have been sitting for a good while. But see how you can't really see any dust on the heat sinks inside the PS3? That's because it's all going to be on the opposite side. You won't be able to see it. The only way to get that out is to open the box up and blast some real good air into it. So what we need to do is take it apart. Okay. Forgive the bouncing around of the screen. Okay, look at this. And you wonder why it wound up with the issue of just shutting down and turning itself off eventually at the yellow light. Okay, look at that. That dust is just choked almost every single air vent in the box. Okay, let's take a look at the front intake vents. Look at that. Okay, your intake vents are just in the front side. Okay, I'm gonna look through here real quick. Dirty. Yep. AV ports are pretty dirty. So I think not only did he not clean it, but he probably had it stored somewhere where there was a good amount of humidity. Okay. Now, this is where the hard drive is, and just above it you'll find your warranty seal. You rip this off and it will void your warranty, if any, but there is no warranty on this box, so we're not going to be concerned with it. But we need to remove the warranty seal in order to remove that little rubber tab directly behind it, which hides a T10 security Torx screw that needs to be removed. Okay. So yeah, I'm narrating this after the fact because there was some audio issues. Anyway, we're going to pull off the, well, I had a few issues with the video, and so for some reason this is seizing in a couple of spots, but basically I pulled off the warranty seal, stuck it off to the left, and now I'm going to remove the little plastic cap that covers the T10. All I used was a small flathead screwdriver. You can use a jeweler's, whatever you like, and just remove that, and you'll see the T10 security Torx. Now, security Torx has a little bump on the inside. It just means a regular standard Torx driver will not fit in the hole. It has to have a little hole drilled into the bottom side of it. So anytime you buy Torx drivers, I highly recommend buying a full set of security Torx, because a lot of things around your house apply to Torx drivers, which means tamper-proof drivers, and some of them actually have the security. Now the security Torx will also work in the standard Torx. Okay, so highly recommended that you just go ahead and spend that extra buck for the security Torx rather than standard Torx. That way you don't have to search around for 100 tools. And it's only maybe about $2 more than buying a single driver. So we need to remove the T10 security Torx. We're going to turn that to the right. Remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. And remove the security Torx. Okay. Once that's loose, sometimes you can grab it with a pair of tweezers. If you can't get it that way, just flip the box over to the side. It'll fall out into your hand. Okay. It's not a very big screw, so hold on to it. Keep an eye on it. Now to open the top, you're just going to slide the top section in the direction of the hole where the security Torx is. Okay, so just put your hand on it, hold on to the box, and give it a little bit of a push. Here we go. See how that just slid right over, and now it'll lift right off. Now use this as a tray for all of your screws and all the little pieces. Okay, set that off to the side so you don't lose anything. Stay as organized as possible. Okay, so now we need to remove the screws that holds the casing in place. These are all Phillips head screws or crosshead screws. I know Phillips is an improper term. That's actually a brand name, but it's so common that everybody calls the crosshead a Phillips. So that's the term I'm going to use. Okay. Use the proper size Phillips. The last thing you want to use is an undersized or an oversized Phillips head screwdriver for these. If you strip one of these out, that's it. You will play holy heck trying to get it out, if you do at all. You may wind up having to destroy the entire casing in order to get that screw out. So use the proper size and you won't have to worry about it. Now the screwdriver I'm using now is part of a Cobalt driver set. They're fairly cheap. You can buy them at Home Depot or Lowe's. Actually, I believe it's Lowe's that has the Cobalts. It comes in a little pouch with a bunch of flatheads and Phillips and a couple really tiny Torx. Alright, so we're going to just remove all of them. All the screws on the casing are going to be all the same size except for the one in the corner that I'm removing right now, and that's about half the length. Okay, but each one of these screws that we're removing has a little arrow pointing to it. And on this particular model, it don't really matter. If you see a screw, you're going to unscrew it. Okay, because every screw that's visible in this particular model is what you're going to be removing. There's a total of 7 screws. Tweezers always come in handy for removing these screws, so you don't have to pick the box up and flip it over. And then we're just some standard tweezers. They do have a little bit of a grip on the end. Highly recommended, especially if you plan on doing a lot of clean outs and repairs. Okay, so now we got all the screws out. Now all that's left to do is open the casing itself, and we will have the box exposed. Now let's get you a nice good shot of the back side of the case. Here's the upper part of the case and the back. There's a tab here, in the middle, and at the end. Okay, so all you're going to do is just put a little bit of inward pressure on the tab and it will release, and then we'll lift it up, and it'll lift up from back to front. Okay, I always put the box up against my stomach, that way it don't move around. Sometimes these pop really easy, sometimes they're a little on the harder side. You see that popped off. I'm going to release it on this side. Okay, there we go. Now, after the tabs are released, all you're going to do is stand it up nice and slow and take a peek at what you have inside. Oh my God. Look at that. Okay, look at the amount of dust in this box, and you wonder why it wound up breaking down. I'm surprised his power supply was not destroyed, because it requires airflow through it in order to cool sections of it as well. So yeah, alright, we need to take the drive off and the power supply off. We're going to leave all the ribbon cables in place and very carefully take it outside with an air compressor, and with about 40 pounds of air pressure we're going to blast it out. Use a soft bristle brush to break free any dust we can, and just basically clean it up as spotless as possible. But we're only going to break this down to a certain point for cleaning and maintenance. Okay, in a later video I'll show you repasting of the chips and eventually reflows and reballs. But for now, this is cleaning and maintenance. So what we need to do is remove the power supply and the drive. Okay, we're going to remove the power supply first. There will be 2 screws in the very back side of the box. I'm going to remove them first. Alright, keep track of them. If you have enough room, lay them out on the table in the general locations, aligned as if you have it inside the box. That way when you go to put the box back together, you'll know exactly where they go. Because this first one here is a very long screw. This next one is a very short screw. There's 2 more screws on this side. And I'll show you where they are. Right here. This one's a case screw. This one's a case screw. This is the screw for the power supply. And then you got the power supply screw here and another case screw. So when you put this back on, you need to make sure that the 2 screws are in the right locations. Otherwise you won't be able to put your lid back on. Okay. So we're going to remove them other 2 screws. And we're going to set them and orient them on the table so that we remember exactly where we put them and exactly where we need to put them back. Now you have the video as reference, but it's kind of hard to judge the size and lengths through a video. So that's why I totally recommend laying them out on a table somewhere so that you can remember exactly where the parts are. Now, I had to dig some dirt out of this in order to get to that final screw. I'll show you where it is. There's one last screw right here, just behind this ribbon cable. Okay, you're very gentle with this ribbon cable. You don't want to mess up. Okay, so we're going to remove that last screw.
For cleaning purposes, you don't want to remove that ribbon cable. You don't want to risk damaging anything. Okay. Now, see how I arranged the screws? I just set them on the table. Next to the box. They're arranged in the same order that I took them out. The long screw, the short screw, two side screws, and then the forward screw. Now, if you want, you can do this on white sheet paper and stick it off to the side somewhere where nobody will move it or bump it and mix them up or knock them down or anything. Now we need to remove the power supply. Throw away some of this dust. Okay, there is a very large plug right about here on this particular model, and then there's a plug in the back and a plug in the front. Plug in the back, you'll just in the back has a little clip here. You're going to push that down and wiggle and pull that out. That's too hard to do with the camera in my hand, so we're going to pull that out. See, I just pinched the top and then pulled it out. Okay. And then there is a ribbon cable or another power cable on the front side of this that we need to remove. That'll be this one here. It has three wires. And you're going to reach as close to the box as you can, pinch, wiggle, and pull. Got that out. Now that we got all of our cables unplugged, we need to remove the power supply. So we're going to grab closest to the drive. We're going to put our thumb here on the face of this and our fingers here on the back, and we're going to lift up simultaneously to unplug the power port right here. Okay, see that? Basically just lifted it straight up. Alright, once that unplugs, you're just going to lift this off, and we're going to take it outside and blow the dog poo out of it, get rid of every last speck of dust in here as best possible. We do not want to take this apart, but we definitely need to get rid of all of this. Okay? Now, we also need to remove the drive because you're not going to want to be blowing air into that drive. You can cause it to stop working. So this drive has two sections that you need to remove. One, a ribbon cable, and two, a power supply cable. The ribbon retainer clips are very fragile, so be very gentle with them when you're pulling them up. Okay. Once you up on this little door, it will free the ribbon cable. Alright, That's all you need to do for now, is just free that ribbon cable. Now, we need to remove power to the disk drive itself. You'll see the plug here. Okay, we're going to remove the power. To remove the power, we're going to lift up the drive just a little bit, and you'll see that the ribbon cable just slid right out. We're going to put our finger underneath the power cable as closely to the casing as possible, pinch, wiggle, and pull. You want to do this as gently and as slowly as possible. The last thing you want to do is pull one of these wires out of this plug. You will be very sorry if you do. Okay, so very gently lift this up. Do not remove this sticker here, if there is one. Right. What we're going to do is we're going to very gently, with a nice clean cloth, wipe this drive off without disturbing anything that may be on the inside. The last thing you want to do is disturb dust on the inside. Now, I'm not going to show you how to open this drive on this video because they get very, very touchy. You open the drive, you may wind up with a box that never plays a game again because you did something wrong. So, if it was playing games when you started this clean out, it should be playing games when you're done with it, if you follow my directions very carefully and nice and slowly. All you're going to do is very gently wipe off any dust on the outside of this drive. Protect the ribbon cable. Don't allow it to get all crinkled up anywhere. We're going to take that and we're going to set that off to the side. These are your heatsink springs. I'm going to be going into detail concerning these springs and why they're there, why they are springs, and it falls right along the lines in the X clamps that everybody said was the flaw of the box, which was a total misconception, lie on most people's parts, just to sell people bolts, when in fact the X clamps were 1,000 times better than your bolt jobs ever could possibly imagine, and I'll be explaining in great detail of that. This box, at this point, we can take outside and clean it out with an air compressor. Use about 40 pounds of air pressure, blast every last crevice of this box, blast through every last bit of the heat sinks, through the vents, everything. We're not going to touch anything else on this box. Avoid pulling this cable out, avoid pulling any of these other cables out. You're just going to blow all of that out. Now, you can use canned air, but air compressor works 1,000 times better than the canned air, and you don't run the risk of accidentally blowing a liquid from the canned air into the box. So I would highly recommend an air compressor with an air nozzle and about 40 pounds of air pressure to blast all of this off. Okay.
I would also highly recommend a soft bristle brush to remove any stubborn dust. Okay, I'm back, and just in case the owner of this box sees this video before I give him a call and let him know his box is repaired, your box is perfectly fine now. Okay, everybody take a look at the box. This is what your box should look like, as much as possible. No dust, or at least very little dust anywhere in the box. Okay, so now let's put it together. This is the way the box was when we left off. Okay, the only thing that's missing is the power supply and the DVD drive. We're going to walk you through putting that back on. Okay, so this time the first thing you want to put back on is the DVD drive. Okay, we got it all cleaned up. We're going to take it and we're going to slide the ribbon cable right into place, and then very gently set the drive down. And we're going to take, and just with our finger, we're going to push the ribbon cable as far as we can over and hold it nice and still, and then we're going to close the ribbon retainer. Okay? Now we're going to take our power to the DVD drive and we're going to plug that back in. Make certain that it's going back in the same way that it came out. Okay. And make sure it's all the way pushed in. If it's not all the way pushed in on the box, when you go to turn it on, the little blue light will blink, 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 blink before you get your disc all the way in, and it will not accept discs. Okay? So make sure that's all the way plugged in. Okay? Make sure everything's all the way plugged in. And obviously this would never be plugged in with the power during any of this operation. So now we need to take the power supply and put that back in. Okay, let's take a look. See, no more dust. It's all cleaned out as much as possible. Okay, got just a teeny bit right there. There we go. Alright, nice and clean. Alright, now you see these plugs here? We're going to kind of move this wire out of the way a little bit. We're going to line up that. We're going to move this out of the way a little bit. We're going to set this power supply gently down on top of that and then push down. Okay, that'll plug it in, just like plugging in an extension cord to an outlet. Simple and easy. Then we're going to take our power supply for the power supply and we're going to plug that in. Just clicks in, simple as that. And then we're going to take the power supply to the board and drive, and we're going to plug that in right back where it was before. Make sure it's all the way in. Okay? Now all we have left to do is put it together. All we need to do is put in the screws. So remember, always use the proper size Phillips screwdriver and put the screws in exactly where you took them out. Put the screws in exactly where you took them out of. Okay. Okay, we've got one more in the front we need to do. Okay, now the power supply is in. Now, as a note, let me loosen this up. I'm going to turn this. I feel it getting tight. It's tight. I'm going to turn just a teeny bit, maybe a third of a quarter of a turn. Okay? Just enough to snug it up. You don't want to sit here and try and wrench these things down super tight. Just down till it stops, a little bit of a turn. That's all. Don't go any tighter than that. Okay, so now we need to put the upper housing back on. Okay, now the upper housing will go back on. All you got to do is sit it on and close it. But no, there's little clips along the front edge of this and along the front edge of this. So let's take a real close look so you can see what that watch me put the case on. Oops. Okay, we're going to set down. See how that looks? We're going to set that down to where each one of them tabs line up with them. Okay. Once they're lined up, you're going to just gently lay the lid back down and then push together the back tabs. Okay, now the top's back on. All we need to do is put our screws in. Okay, so let's get them. Okay, we should have 6 long screws and 1 short. The 1 short goes in the far right corner. This is the front of the box facing me. The shortest screw, far right corner. And then the long screws in every place that has a arrow. Okay. There we go. Now let's tighten them down. Now remember what I told you about the drive? Always start turning the opposite direction until you hear it make a little click, and then turn to the right to tighten it. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You'll turn a couple of turns to the left just to get the threads nice and even, and then you'll turn to the right until it reaches the bottom. Once it reaches the bottom, just a teeny bit of a turn to snug it up, and that's it. Okay, it's snugged. Teeny bit of a turn. We're going to turn to the left just a couple of turns. We're going to turn to the right until it hits the bottom, and a little snug. Left a little bit until you feel it just kind of click a little bit. It'll line up the threads with the plastic, and then to the right. Remember, if these are going in really hard, you're doing it wrong. Just a teeny bit of a snug. Turn it to the left, you'll feel it click and line up with the threads. Turn it to the right, go all the way down, snug. Turn it to the left until you feel it line up with the threads, and turn it to the right, snug. Turn it to the left. I don't know if you can hear this or not. Each time it clicks, it lines up the thread. Turn it to the other direction. It'll go in nice and smooth all the way down, and then just a little snug. Everything's all nice and tight here. We're going to now put on the upper housing. Okay, you'll see this. That's where the T10 security Torx goes. That will go to this side with the hole. You're going to lay it on here. It'll be just a little off center, and then all you got to do is just push from left to right. That will line up the sides nice and even, and you're all locked into place. Now, you don't really need to put this T10 back in, but I recommend always keeping everything as factory as possible. Saves a whole lot of headache, and kids don't manage to get inside of them and mess things up. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take that T10 and we're going to drop it right in there. We're going to turn to the opposite direction, and then we're going to turn to the right direction, righty-tighty, until it snugs up nice and soft. Nothing real tight. Okay? Nothing tight at all. Just snug. Then we'll take the little rubber plastic piece and we're going to install that back in. But you see the little lip? Okay, that little lip will go to the top side of the box just like that. Alright, and then if you like, you can take your little seal and put it back over. Okay, it's not necessary, but it'll help keep that little plastic piece from falling out. So why not? Alright, so that's a clean out of a PS3 model number CECHH01. We'll be getting some more clean outs of the other models later because there are some minor differences. So unless you know the difference, I wouldn't recommend doing the clean out yourself. And remember, be very, very careful. Take your time, and if you're the type of person to throw a screwdriver because you get frustrated, then I would recommend you have somebody else do it for you. Okay? Stay safe, happy gaming everyone.